Now that we've made our main ideas and have gathered our sources and have an idea of what we want to use for visual aids, we need to tie it all together and make it into a proper speech. And what's missing is the introduction and conclusion. So my name's Ahmad, and here is some things to consider when making an introduction and conclusion and making it effective for your audience. So the introduction is a general idea of what the speech is about. You want to give the audience an idea of what's going to come, and you want to give them the motivation to listen to it and take in the information. So some points to remember when making an introduction is to, one, get the audience's attention. Because first impressions are everything. You know, when we meet someone, we have a first impression. Everything is a first impression. And there's a good, favorable first impression, and then there's a bad one. So you want to avoid the bad first impressions, because if you give a bad first impression, then the audience will be repulsed, and they'll most likely not want to listen to what you have to hear to say. Just like in the book said, like someone drew blood in part of the introduction, and so a lot of people were repulsed by it because some people don't like blood. And then the second point that ties into the first point of getting your audience's attention is to give your audience a reason to listen. So in my case, my subject is Ray-Ban, and I want to say something like, you know, we wear a Ray-Ban every day. We don't think about it, but the brand's history and DNA makes the product special, and then I'll talk about how it's important. And then I introduce the subject about Ray-Ban and tell people what my speech is really about and what they can expect. So this is a good idea to include your central idea in there, and then preview your main idea so they can have a sneak peek of what to expect. And by giving out your main ideas, it kind of mirrors the organization of your speech, and the audience will kind of know what to expect, and they'll follow along, marking off the points. So like, oh yeah, this is point 1 that was introduced in the introduction. Oh, here's point 1, point 2, point 3. So they'll mark it off the list as you go on with your speech. And then once you've given out your main ideas and stated out what you wanted to say, you got to end the speech. So that's where the conclusion comes into play. And the conclusion ties it all together. It provides closure. So what you want to do in your conclusion is to summarize the speech. You want to make it very short, very clean, but it gets the point across. So you want to mention your central idea again, and you want to justify and make sure so you remind them what the speech is about when they're done listening to your speech and when they think back on your speech. And then you want to restate your main ideas too, so then it gives the central idea some meaning and some justification to it as to why this this idea is important and provides a big picture. And then you want to close it out with the bigger picture. So for me, in my case, the example would be like, you know, a lot of brands and products that we use on an everyday basis and don't think about have a rich history and DNA behind the brand that influences it on the product and services that we use today. Case in point, Ray-Ban. And then people will think about it and ponder off a little bit more, and then they'll think about my speech and what I had to say about the Ray-Ban's history and DNA and how that relates to other brands. So those are just some things about introductions and conclusions, and that's it. Yeah, you're done.